A decorated black female general, hailed as a trailblazer, a patriot, a hero, is now being told by a judge to do the unthinkable: remove her honor medal. The very symbol of her service and sacrifice must be stripped from her chest. The courtroom fell silent, cameras flashed, her supporters gasped. How did it come to this? Was she involved in a scandal? Did she betray her oath? Or is this a grave mistake fueled by bias, politics, or something even more sinister? This shocking turn of events has left the nation divided and demanding answers. What could possibly justify such a humiliating order for one of America's most respected military leaders? Stay with us, because the story behind this stunning decision is more complicated, emotional, and controversial than anyone expected. Born in a modest neighborhood in Birmingham, Alabama, General Alexandria Alex Moore grew up in a world where expectations were low, but her dreams were sky high. Raised by a single mother who worked 2 jobs, Alex learned early the values of hard work, resilience, and self-discipline. From the moment she stepped into ROTC in high school, something clicked. She wasn't just participating, she was leading. Teachers described her as laser-focused, her peers inspired. She graduated first in her class at West Point, breaking barriers as both a woman and a black cadet in one of the nation's most elite, male-dominated institutions. She refused to let prejudice define her. Instead, she redefined what leadership looked like. Over the next 2 decades, General Moore climbed the ranks with unwavering determination. Her career was built not on politics or privilege, but on excellence. She led troops into combat zones, negotiated peace operations, and mentored thousands of young soldiers along the way. Those who served under her called her the real deal. Her compass: honor, loyalty, service. She never asked for shortcuts. She demanded the best from others because she gave nothing less herself. So how did this woman, who embodied everything the military claims to stand for, end up standing in a courtroom, ordered to remove the very medal that once symbolized her sacrifice and leadership? The deeper you look into her story, the more disturbing the answers become. It was a moment that captured the nation's heart. General Alexandria Moore stood at attention in full-dress uniform as the President of the United States placed the Medal of Honor around her neck. The room erupted in applause. Senators, generals, veterans, and everyday Americans rose in a standing ovation. Her eyes welled with tears, not for herself, but for the soldiers she had lost, the battles she had endured, and the communities she had fought to protect. For her, this medal wasn't just recognition. It was a symbol of everything she believed in: duty, courage, sacrifice. In her hometown, streets filled with celebration, churches rang their bells. Young black girls watched with awe, seeing possibility in her story. Veterans saluted their screens, many saying, "She earned that." She became a national icon, a role model, a living reminder that perseverance could defy prejudice. Her photo hung in classrooms. Her story was studied in leadership academies. That medal wasn't just metal, it was a mirror of her soul and a beacon for millions who saw their own dreams in her triumph. So now, as the court demands she remove it, the question becomes, why? And what could possibly erase a moment that meant everything? Months after the ceremony, the tide began to shift. Quiet murmurs echoed through government halls and shadowed corners of newsrooms. Accusations of power wielded too freely. Whispers of classified information leaked to the wrong ears. Murmurs of behavior unbecoming of her position. At first, the rumors were easily brushed aside, fragments of political jealousy or misunderstanding. But they grew louder. She denied every charge with a calm voice and steady eyes, but the air around her thickened. Headlines questioned her integrity. Anonymous sources painted damning portraits. Every public appearance felt like walking into a storm she could no longer control. Inside, anxiety gnawed at her. Were they twisting the truth, or had someone close betrayed her trust? Sleep slipped away night after night, replaced by the dull hum of worry. Fear crept in, not just for her reputation, but for everything she had fought to protect. Who was behind the whispers? And why now? Friends offered sympathy, but even their glances began to shift, tinged with doubt. As confusion mounted, she stood at the edge of something larger than she could yet see. Trouble, it seemed, had only just begun to stir. An official inquiry was launched with little fanfare, but heavy consequence. What began as whispers had now grown into a formal investigation, backed by pressure from political rivals and fueled by relentless media coverage. A special committee was assembled. Her past missions, once buried under layers of classified clearance, were pulled into the harsh light of scrutiny. Files she hadn't opened in years were dissected by strangers in suits. Colleagues, some loyal, others less so, were summoned for questioning. The investigators were thorough, tracing her every move across a decade of service. One mission, in particular, emerged from the stack like a loaded weapon: Operation Eyeglass. It had been a covert operation, sealed under top-level clearance. Now it was the centerpiece of the inquiry. Testimonies conflicted. Some painted her as a decisive leader, forced to make impossible choices. Others hinted at a cover-up, a critical mistake buried for the sake of national security. Records were incomplete. Redacted lines left more questions than answers. Yet a narrative began to form, coherent enough for headlines, ambiguous enough to cause real damage. She watched the story unfold like a distorted mirror of her own life. Was this how it would all be remembered? Through hearsay and half-truths? The pressure mounted. The line between memory and record blurred. Her past, once a source of pride, had become a puzzle she could no longer control, and the world was now determined to solve it, with or without her truth. The tribunal convened beneath stark lights and colder stares. She stood at the center of it all, flanked by defense counsel and watched by a room thick with judgment. The charges, still murky in detail, were laid out with precision, each one a strike at her legacy. The courtroom cameras rolled, capturing every glance, every breath, every moment of silence that passed between question and answer. Outside, the media circled like vultures. Commentators speculated endlessly, dissecting her every expression. Her race and gender became headline fodder, framing the trial in tones of quiet bias. Was she too ambitious, too independent, too much? They questioned not just her actions, but her right to have risen so far, so fast. She answered with composure. Her voice, when she spoke, was steady. She denied wrongdoing with unwavering resolve, refusing to be broken or baited. But behind the calm mask, heartbreak simmered. Former allies had distanced themselves. Old friends testified with carefully chosen words, loyalty traded for self-preservation. She felt betrayal like a knife to the ribs, yet she would not bow. Her silence, at times, said more than any statement could. A refusal to dignify the spectacle with tears or theatrics. Inside her, defiance took root. This trial was not justice. It was a reckoning shaped by fear, power, and prejudice. Whatever the verdict, she knew one truth remained unshaken. She had not failed her duty, and she would not let them rewrite her story without a fight. The chamber fell silent as the presiding judge delivered the verdict. She stood tall, hands clenched at her sides, heart thudding in her chest. The tribunal had not found her guilty of the gravest accusations, no treason, no criminal breach. But the judgment came with its own weight, conduct unbecoming of an officer, a grey verdict, a damning compromise. She was ordered to relinquish the medal. For a moment she didn't move. The medal rested against her chest, gleaming beneath the courtroom lights. The same medal once pinned with pride, now a symbol of disgrace in the eyes of the court. Slowly, with deliberate fingers, she unclasped it. Her face remained composed, but her eyes betrayed everything: pain, fury, disbelief. Her breath caught as she placed the medal on the table before the judge. The sound of metal on wood echoed louder than the verdict itself. There were no tears, just the raw ache of something sacred being stripped away, not by truth but by fear and perception. She didn't speak as she turned and walked out. She didn't have to. The look in her eyes said it all. They could take the medal. They could not take her story. The verdict ignited a firestorm. Supporters flooded social media and news outlets with outrage, rallying behind her with calls of injustice and racial and gender bias. She was made a scapegoat. Many argued, their voices raw with pain and disbelief. Petitions circulated demanding her honor be restored. For them, this was a clear case of power silencing a trailblazer, but not everyone agreed. Some believed justice was served, convinced the tribunal had uncovered the truth beneath the surface. Commentators insisted that no one was above accountability, even heroes. The division cut deep, exposing fault lines in public opinion and national identity. Civil rights groups seized the moment to highlight systemic discrimination, framing the trial as emblematic of the broader struggles. Veterans expressed disappointment, not just in the verdict, but in what they saw as the erosion of trust and respect within the ranks. The emotional landscape was fractured. Anger, sorrow, disbelief, and a profound sense of betrayal. Conversations once hushed now roared openly, reflecting a nation wrestling with its values, its heroes, and its own reflection in the mirror of controversy. The story no longer belonged to her alone. It had become a battleground for justice, identity, and truth. The discharge came quietly, without ceremony or fanfare. No farewell speeches, no parting honors, just a formal notice marking the end of her career. The doors that once opened so easily now remained shut. Job offers vanished as quickly as they had appeared, replaced by hushed conversations and polite distance. Friends who once stood by her faded into silence, unsure how to navigate the shadow that now clung to her name. Invitations stopped coming. Calls went unanswered. The network she had built with relentless effort unraveled, thread by fragile thread. Her reputation, painstakingly forged over years of dedication and sacrifice, lay in ruins, scattered across headlines and whispered rumors. The weight of loss pressed down, heavier than any medal ever could. In the stillness of her days, loneliness settled in like a slow, creeping fog. Grief was a quiet companion, swallowing dreams and hopes. She spoke little, the silence filling spaces where her voice once commanded rooms. Life after the medal was a void, a stark reminder that even the brightest stars can fall, and sometimes no one is there to catch them. After months of silence, she finally spoke, through a recorded message shared online. Her voice was calm, measured, carrying the weight of reflection and truth. She looked directly into the camera, not with defiance, but with quiet dignity. "I served with honor," she began. "In every mission, every moment, I gave my all to protect those I swore to defend. I have faced challenges no one else could understand, yet I never wavered in my commitment." She paused, eyes steady. "This story is not mine alone, but I will not let history forget who I really was, or what I stood for. Truth is more than a verdict. It lives in the hearts of those who remember." Her words carried strength, resilience shining through grief and loss. It was not a plea for sympathy, but a reclaiming of her narrative. One final act of courage, refusing to be silenced, refusing to be erased. Her case is not an isolated incident, but a mirror reflecting deep-rooted systemic problems involving race, power, gender, and military culture. It exposes how marginalized identities often face layered discrimination and silencing within rigid, hierarchical institutions. The intersection of her race and gender magnifies the challenges she endures, revealing biases that persist despite promises of equality and justice. This awakening stirs a complex mix of emotions: anger at the injustice, frustration with the entrenched power dynamics, and a profound reflection on the cost of silence. Yet, amidst this turmoil, her courage becomes a beacon of inspiration, sparking a call for change that transcends individual grievances. Her story challenges us to confront uncomfortable truths and pushes for reforms that ensure dignity, respect, and equity for all, igniting hope for a future where the military culture evolves into a truly inclusive space. Though the medal was taken from her, her true legacy lies far beyond any symbol or accolade. It lives in the lives she touched, the barriers she shattered, and the truths she dared to speak. Her story exposes a painful injustice, reminding us that recognition can be withheld, but courage cannot. In the face of systemic silence, she sparked a vital conversation about fairness, respect, and accountability. Her journey leaves us with both a deep sense of the wrongs endured and a hopeful belief that truth and change will eventually prevail. This story is more than just a single individual's experience. It is a call to each of us to engage deeply with issues of justice, equality, and accountability. The systemic problems highlighted here around race, gender, and power do not exist in isolation. They affect countless lives across institutions and communities. By sharing this story with your networks, you help bring light to these ongoing struggles and encourage broader reflection on how we, as a society, treat those who serve and those who are marginalized. We encourage you not only to reflect on the emotional and social weight of this case, but to support efforts aimed at justice reform, whether that means advocating for policy changes, supporting organizations working on military and social equity, or simply educating yourself and others. Your involvement is vital. Justice is a collective responsibility, and awareness is the first step toward meaningful change. We also invite you to join the conversation here. Leave your comments below to share your thoughts, experiences, or questions. Engaging with different perspectives helps build a stronger, more informed community ready to challenge injustice and demand accountability. Your voice, especially when combined with others, can amplify the stories that often go unheard or ignored. If this story resonates with you, please subscribe to our channel page. Staying informed means staying empowered. By subscribing, you'll receive updates on similar stories, important discussions, and opportunities to get involved. Together, we can create a platform that supports transparency, equity, and reform, not just in the military, but in all corners of society. Change doesn't happen overnight, but every share, every comment, and every new subscriber strengthens the movement toward fairness and respect for all. Stand with us to break the silence and ensure that courage is honored, not punished. Your support fuels hope, drives awareness, and builds the foundation for a more just future.